Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to our debut edition of the Bucs Mock Draft Show presented by Pewter Report. And Josh Queipo and myself, I'm Scott Reynolds. I'm your host. Along with Josh Queipo, we have completed our first of 5 off-season mock drafts for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today's show is presented by Jorgensen Law P.A. They're the champions of the injured and disabled, located in St. Petersburg, Florida. You're going to get a free case evaluation and no fees until they win for you. So if you are looking for legal representation in the areas of personal injury, Social Security, or workers' comp, give Jorgensen Law PA.com, Jorgensen Law PA a call, or visit them on the web at jorgensenlawoffice.com, 727-347-7733. Josh Queipo, it is draft time officially. We're going to be going to Mobile, Alabama tomorrow and freezing our butts off, although you're already doing that up in Atlanta. I just got back from the beach down here.
You keep rubbing that in. Scott called me earlier today. He's like, hey, can you talk? I'm on my way home from the beach. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to get ice off my car right now. And we'll see if I'm able to do that tomorrow and meet you guys on time. But yes, the winter storm has affected me up here in Atlanta, but it has not affected my mood because, like you said, we are now into the throes of draft season. And I'm really excited. I've done a few deep dives, a few cursory dives, and I'm really excited for us to present our first mock draft, which I do think is perfect, and it'll be exactly how the draft plays out.
Of course,
and really, the next 4 will just be reiterated, because we're that good. We can nail it on January 25th.
Exactly. More importantly, the big question for the Buccaneers is: can Jason Licht and Todd Bowles, can they nail it? Right? Can they get a draft? Jason and his scouts have done a fantastic job of drafting starters. I think their hit ratio is the envy of most teams across the league when it comes to the draft. They really don't draft a lot of busts. They've drafted some. Unfortunately, at outside linebacker, Joe Tryon, Shawinka, Chris Braswell come to mind. But they have drafted a bunch of starters. But, Josh, they really need some stars, especially on defense, to take this team to the next level. That front 6 in nickel, front 7, and their 3-4 scheme needs a lot of new bodies and upgrade in talent in a lot of areas.
It does. You hear there is some frustration from fans with Jason Light's drafting in recent seasons, and I think it requires some context and some nuance. You put his drafting up against almost any other GM over the past 5 drafts. He's going to come out top 5, top 10 in terms of actual value that they've been able to extract, and specifically those starters that you were talking about. But you can fairly juxtapose it against someone like Les Snead in Los Angeles, right? If you were to think, has Snead hit on as many picks being starters? Not really, but the picks that he has hit, those have been extremely impact players. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, those guys have completely transformed, and specifically along one very impactful part of the roster, and it's helped transform the rest of that squad. So I think Jason this year, if I could create a dream scenario that still works within reality, that first and second pick are just absolute high-end impact players. And if the rest of the draft doesn't quite turn out, that's okay, because those high-impact players, and Scott, you and I were talking about it earlier today, force multipliers. They can actually have a positive effect on all of these solid starters that Jason's brought in over the last couple of seasons and get even more out of all of those picks.
Yeah, and I think more so than anything, really what they need is, especially on the defensive side of the ball, we're going to be looking at that with great interest in today's mock draft. And if you haven't checked out our mock draft, went ahead and put that in the chat for you to peruse. A lot of defensive picks were made, as is expected this year, because let's face it, the offense for Todd Bowles pretty much set, but it's his side of the ball that really needs some defensive help. And we're going to put up a graphic here that's going to kind of illustrate kind of what this team has done and maybe not done in recent drafts with premium picks. Premium picks really being defined as picks 1 through 4, right? You want to get first round picks, right? Because that's where you're hopefully drafting Pro Bowlers. Day 2 picks, very important. They should be starters, if not Pro Bowlers. If you can hit on a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. that has Pro Bowl potential. Rondé Barber was a 3rd round pick. He was a Hall of Famer, right? If you can hit on those premium picks, we're going to even extend it into the 4th round. But when you look at what Jason Light has been able to do with Todd Bowles, looking at the front 6, and we're calling it front 6 because Bowles plays primarily more nickel defense. So it's those 2 linebackers. Then it's the front 4. Vita Vea, 1st round pick in 2018. And we're kind of capping it at 2018 because this is like the modern day Buccaneers, right? Vita Vea is still on the team. Devin White the next year at inside linebacker, 5th overall. It's a bit of a conundrum. He helped this team win a Super Bowl. I think the tape was more promising 2019, 2020. 2021 he actually made the Pro Bowl, but that's kind of where he started to slide, right? And then he slid right off this roster and then bounced around the league, and he's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence out there in Las Vegas. Then Anthony Nelson is another premium pick, in other words, 4th round or higher. And he has been, which you would probably expect a 4th round pick to be. He's been a serviceable backup, a rotational player. He's had his moments. He's had some impact plays for the Buccaneers. 2021, the year after the Bucs won the Super Bowl, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. That's a swing and a miss. He did not live up to expectations as a 1st round pick. And then Logan Hall the next year, that was the Bucs' 1st pick at number 33 overall. Again, not lived up to expectations. He's expected to move on in free agency. Elijah Cansey, well, Logan Hall was such a bust. They drafted his replacement the next year. That's something Jason Light likes to do when he identifies a swing and a miss. Cansey's been really good when he's been on the field. He's played, I believe, in 28 games and missed 22. Then you've got really his best edge rusher, the best edge rusher he's drafted. Yaya Diaby in the 3rd round was at the Senior Bowl, played at Louisville, and then he tried to find that other guy to replace Joe Tryon-Shoyinka in 2024, Chris Braswell, and that wasn't the guy. He's been a bust in the 2nd round. And then because Braswell was a bust, they drafted his replacement, and David Walker. The only problem is a 4th round pick injured his ACL in training camp after the 1st week, and he's just an unknown. He's a bonus extra pick this year, but outside of running around in shorts, a helmet, and a jersey, we haven't really seen what David Walker can or can't do. Josh, your thoughts on how this front 7 has a lot of draft picks, not a lot of impact players, and half the guys on this list are either gone or will be gone this year?
Yeah, I mean, and we're going back 8 years at this point, so some of those guys being gone is a little on the understandable side. But
correct.
What I go back to is, you start with that 2021 draft. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka did not live up to expectations, and he didn't get much playing time in Cleveland, and then got traded to the Bears. And I want to say he was inactive during the playoffs, so obviously a big swing and miss there. Hall has been so interesting because he's coming off his best season from a tape perspective, and there may be some teams that are going to give him a decent deal. Yeah. I just think for the expectations the Bucs had for him, and the fact that it took him this long to kind of become this player, which is a solid contributor, his time in Tampa Bay is not long. Cansey's the really interesting one because we talk about that impact force multiplier. When he is on the field, that is who he is. Mm-hmm. He really elevates everyone around him and helps kind of bring their pass rush plan together. But, you say it all the time, you can't make the club from in the tub, right? Yeah. And so that's the big one. Diaby can only be considered a success when you look at where he was drafted. I firmly 100% believe that. And he would be a starter on, what would you say, Scott, 25 out of 32 clubs in the NFL?
For sure. And I think Diaby is a player that you want to keep. He's a good player. Is he the best edge rusher that you can get? No, there's other guys that are better than he is, but he's not a player that you're looking to replace. He's a player you're looking to keep, and then finding somebody who's as good, if not better, on the other side that can really create a 1-2 punch that this team has not had since Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett were doing their thing.
100% agree. And what's really interesting is we talk about this Bucs front 6 and how crucial it is to the success of the defense. And I'll even argue, I know we call it a front six and we talk about how they play a nickel so much, but let's look at where the league is headed.
Right.
More 12 personnel, more 13 personnel over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
This may turn back into a front seven. And the importance of winning up front has never been more important to, I don't love my sentence structure there, but I think I got the point across.
Yeah.
It's extremely important to have a dominant front six, front seven. And so I think that's a place where the Bucs really have to address this offseason, both in free agency as well as in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. And so what we decided to do was in this mock draft is we try to make these mocks as kind of realistic as possible, right? Like it's not you're going to get everything you want in every single round. This is not a PFF draft simulator where you can kind of manipulate it a little bit, and do some trades and stuff. We try to keep it as realistic as possible. And let's just start in the first round, Josh, with our first round pick for the Buccaneers. He's been mocked to the Buccaneers an awful lot so far. This really shouldn't come as much of a surprise. If he's there, I think he's one of those players that you end up just taking because even though off-ball linebacker is not considered more of a premium selection in the first round where, like say, an edge rusher or a defensive tackle would be, this is a position of need, and boy, is it a need. This team has 2 linebackers under contract right now, 2 inside linebackers. That's Denai Dennis, who was, as a starter, didn't mean to do the 6'7", but before the 6'7", this was kind of like, So Denai Dennis was okay, up and down. That's what this means, up and down. Not 6'7", but he was up and down. He was serviceable, probably an upgrade over KJ Britt. Certainly replaceable, I think, unless he can really step up his game in this year. It is a contract year for Denai Dennis. The other linebacker is Nick Jackson, spent most of his season on the practice squad, playing special teams. Remember, they had John Bullock on the roster, and then they had to release him, I believe, in favor of Jason Pierre-Paul signing him to the roster. They tried to put him back in the practice squad. He got claimed by the Colts, so he's gone now. Lavonte David, Anthony Walker, Deion Jones are all unrestricted free agents. I'm at the point where I don't necessarily want any of them back. And I say that with much respect to Lavonte David, because if Lavonte comes back, he has to be a starter, given his legendary status. You have to play him because the fan base will not accept anything less. And his skills diminished last year significantly in a lot of areas. He missed sacks. He was not that good in coverage, okay? The 36-year-old Lavonte David is not going to be better than the 35-year-old Lavonte David. And I think he's had a great career. He had a knee injury last year he was dealing with. He's not going to get healthier at age 36. I just think it's time to move on. And I expect Lavonte to retire. I really do. I think that's what's best for him and the team. You need youth, speed, athleticism, promise, potential, upside. You need guys that they're still reaching their ceiling, not hanging on to the floor.
Yeah.
And I think you need 2 of them. One of them should be a free agent, a veteran that knows what they're doing. The other one, I mean, hey, if he's there, Sonny Styles, I think, would be a fantastic fit at 15. Tell us why, Josh.
Sonny Styles, since I've been doing draft evaluations, is the best linebacker I've ever evaluated.
I agree.
He's absolutely incredible. And what I love about him is he is not scheme dependent. And we'll get into it. I think one of the big conversations this draft season, because Ohio State had 2 stud linebackers in Styles and then Arvell Reese, is those 2 complemented each other so well. They are stylistically 2 different linebackers.
Yeah.
Reese kind of more like a Todd Bowles type of linebacker. Styles, what I love about him is while his best role is probably in more of a 4 down and go type of defense, which is not really what the Bucs have been under Todd Bowles.
Yeah,
he can play that. Like, there is no part of his game that I would say he's just not good at. There are some things that he just hasn't been asked to do. But you're talking about a guy who's 6'5", I think it was 243 pounds. He's
Mhm.
got hops. He wasn't asked to mug up in the A gap like he would be in a Bucs defense,
Yeah.
but he certainly has the frame to do so. He's got speed. But the thing that I think, Scott, you always talk about what's their superpower.
Yeah.
And Sonny Styles' superpower to me is his eye discipline. He
Mhm.
always knows where to look, and everything else flows from that. Because he knows where to look, he knows where to be. Because he knows
Yeah.
where to be and he has the athleticism, he's always in the right spot. He
Right.
does everything so well. And I've heard from some other evaluators, like it almost becomes humdrum because every snap you watch, you go, oh, there's Sonny just doing his job. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't always come up as these splash plays, but because
Right.
he's doing his job so well, it helps amplify everybody around him, and it allows Arvell to go and make plays, and it
Right.
allows that defensive front to make plays themselves. But in terms of fitting the run, he's always in the right gap. He's working downhill, but he can also run sideline to sideline. He's got the speed to do that. I mean, it was throughout this past year, everybody was talking about it. He didn't miss his first tackle until literally his last game at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And he missed 2 in that one, but that was it.
Right.
There's
That's
nothing
it.
else. In coverage, he passes off routes really well. He can get back quickly to close the windows on seams. When he gets to the flat, running backs do not out athlete this guy.
Yeah.
There is nothing about his game I don't like. I am
agree.
absolutely in love with him. He is currently my highest evaluated player. I'm very early in the process, but he's fantastic. And the other thing for those fans who, I think we all agree at this point, Todd Bowles is on the hot seat for 2026.
Yeah.
And if things don't go Todd Bowles' way in 2027, you could have a whole new coaching staff with a whole new defensive philosophy. What I really love about Sonny Styles, I don't care who you bring in.
Yep.
Sonny Styles will be able to fit whatever defense you want to run. He can do it all.
I agree. And what I really enjoy about his game is he does make some splash plays, right? He is a force multiplier, but he's capable of making splash plays. Was asked to pass rush a little bit more in 2024 during Ohio State's championship run.
Yep.
And 100 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. He lived in the backfield a lot, but he also had 5 pass breakups this year, 3 pass breakups, an interception. He's forced a fumble in each of the last 3 seasons, 6.5 tackles for loss, 82 tackles this year. Very good when it comes to stacking and shedding offensive linemen. It's crazy to think he started off as a safety with his build.
I know.
6'5", 243 pounds. Started off as a safety and has grown into that linebacker. And so to me, there are times when he is a man among boys out there and literally just taking college guards and centers and just shoving them aside and just swallowing up running backs. And so I love what he can do against the pass. I love what he can do against the run. He, to me, is better than Devin White was coming out of LSU. And I don't know if he's going to run the 4.4 that Devin White ran, but he, to me, is a better prospect coming out. And if you're going to use the rationale, we're going to take Devin White at 5 overall, you sure as hell can take Sonny Styles at 15 overall given that mindset. The big question, Josh, everybody wants to know is he going to be there? There's a lot of teams that need linebackers. The Dallas Cowboys are one of them, but is he going to be there at 15?
And I think that's a fair question. Right now, I would say it needs to be presented as a question. I talk to people all the time, and they're like, well, this guy won't be there. I'm like, buddy, it is January 25th.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we can really be certain of 100% right now is Fernando Mendoza will be selected by in the top 5 picks.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there's still a lot of movement that can happen. Yeah. Teams are still doing a lot of research on these guys, not just tape research, but obviously there's the combine. We're going to the Senior Bowl where they're going to get to see how do these guys practice. We're going to talk to their, NFL teams are going to talk to their coaches. They're going to do background checks. This time last year, what was one of the most foregone conclusions in the world was that Shedeur Sanders would be taken in the top 10 picks.
That's right. Yep.
Shedeur Sanders got picked in, what was it, the 5th round?
Yeah.
So I get really reluctant to say, well, this guy's definitely is or isn't going to be somewhere. So for right now, I think it's safe to say Sonny Styles is a 1st-round talent. I certainly have a 1st-round grade on him. And as I put out a full scouting report on Styles. He was the first guy I looked at. And for those who don't know, my first round grades are guys who I think are eventually going to be an all-pro at some point in their career. And there are only about 10 to 15 of those guys in every draft. And so I have a first round grade on him. He is somebody I think at some point in his career is going to be an all-pro. And can you get a guy like that at 15? Yeah, because certain teams have certain needs, certain positions they're not looking at. I think the other question that's really interesting, and you kind of brought it up when you said, well, if you can take Devin White, in the top 5, are you willing to take Sonny Styles in the top 15? And that brings in the conversation of the positional value of linebacker. Scott, you and I have agreed that we think Sonny Styles would be a great fit, even with linebacker being a little bit of a lower value position in the NFL. Right. We see it with contracts and how that really messes with the 5th-year option on these guys. We're going to see, last year, Devin Lloyd didn't get his 5th-year option picked up by Jacksonville. Jack Campbell probably won't get his 5th-year option, even though he's an all-pro now in Detroit, because of the way the NFL accounts for those things. And for me, Sonny Styles is so good. You draft him, and even if you only get 4 years and then you have to extend and you can't do the 5th year, I don't care.
Right.
You figure that out 5 years from now. He's going to help you out for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things to look at here as well, too. All right, you look at edge rusher, as Abraham says. What about edge rusher? We're going to get to edge rusher in a second. But sometimes you have to look at there's two things. There's the positional value, right? And right now, I don't care what you say about edge rusher. Trust me, I want an edge rusher more than you do, okay? I mean, that is like my position. I love edge rushers since I was a little kid. I had a dog named Manley, named after Dexter Manley, growing up a Redskins fan. You had Charles Mann on one side, Dexter Manley. Then I moved to Kansas City. You got Derek Thomas on one side and Neil Smith on the other. All right, so I was born loving outside edge rushers. Having said that, inside linebacker is without question the number one need on this team. They have 2 of them. One of them is a questionable starter. Okay,
he's back.
It probably is, right? Unless he just takes a Herculean jump and gets motivated, stimulated by them signing a free agent or drafting somebody. Yeah, Servassier Dennis is the good number 3 coming off the bench, your Kevin Minter kind of guy, right? Heady IQ football player, decent, but not very good or great. But having said that, edge rusher, Yaya Diaby as an edge rusher on this football team is better than Servassier Dennis is as a linebacker. You have 2 edge rushers. You have 2 linebackers in this Todd Bowles scheme, a Mike backer and a Mo backer, which is short for money backer, which is what Levante David plays, that weak side linebacker in nickel. So again, the premier need is actually, as of right now, inside linebacker. I think that's going to change when free agency comes. I expect them, whether it's Quincy Williams, whether it's Devin Lloyd, whether it's Jack Campbell, they're going to get a veteran inside linebacker. Todd Bowles, in going into a make or break year, is not going to want 2 rookie linebackers that he's going to have to start and learn the nuances of his very complex defense in a make or break year. That's just not going to happen. So that's another thing. The other thing is if Sonny Styles is there, and actually I think he's better than Arvell Reese. I think he's the better linebacker prospect.
It's a fun conversation because in a vacuum, 100% agree with you. I put out my Arvell Reese scouting report. I've got a 2nd round grade on him, which means I think eventually he'd be a Pro Bowler. Yeah. But I think Sonny Styles has the cleaner tape. The interesting conversation, specifically for the Bucs and a Todd Bowles defense, I think Arvell Reese is a better fit for the Bucs defense. When you look at everything that Arvell does at an extremely high level, which is when he attaches as the 5th guy off the edge, and he turns a 4-man front into a 5-man front, and his ability to get up on the line of scrimmage and win around the edge and have that pass rushing element to him. Arvell Reese is really like the prototypical linebacker in 2025 for what your modern day defensive geniuses want to do. Sonny Styles is more in the and people are going to probably roast me or clip me on this because I'm going to say Fred Warner isn't your prototypical 2025 linebacker, but that's because Fred Warner is such a unicorn. And he does so many things and he creates this defense that is so unique because he can do all these other things. But Styles is more like a Fred Warner in he's better 3 to 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, read it out, get to the ball, kind of point and shoot. Whereas Reese is that guy who can hybrid and do so many different things that, in this modern system of blitz heavy and sim heavy. So Reese is, I think, the better Todd Bowles mold.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you that Sonny's the better linebacker and the better tape.
And if he is available at 15, that means some edge rushers have gone ahead of Tampa Bay anyways, right? And we're going to assume Ruben Bain, we're going to assume David Bailey, and maybe Cassius Howe in this scenario that would allow Sonny Styles to drop there. Then it becomes, do you essentially want the first or second best linebacker on the board? Or do you want the fourth best edge rusher, depending on, how things shake out grade-wise? I just go back to a terrible, terrible situation that the Bucs were in back in 2005, where from a positional need or positional pick standpoint, they drafted Cadillac Williams with the 5th overall pick. He was the 3rd running back off the board that year with the 5th overall pick. Okay. And I swear to this day, if his name was Carnell Williams and he didn't go by Cadillac, John Gruden wouldn't have drafted him. He just loved the idea of driving that Cadillac all around Tampa Bay, man, And the guy that they should have picked was DeMarcus Ware, like Monty Kiffin wanted. The edge rusher out of Troy, who I don't know, ended up being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So, probably, and Monty was insistent. He was the next coming of Simeon Rice, and he would have been in Tampa Bay in that style of defense. So it's just, there is something to be said for that. Now, if the fourth best edge rusher is on par with Sonny Styles in terms of the Bucs grading board, so we'll see. But so we're going to go with Sonny Styles at the 1st round pick. And this is where the draft goes off the rails, because in the 2nd round, we're going edge rusher, right? No, we're not. We're not going edge rusher. We're going to go with Texas Tech defensive tackle Lee Hunter, who you actually have a draft profile coming out tomorrow. 6'4", 330 pounds. I've watched every Texas Tech game this year, even the one where I was freezing my balls off at Kansas State when they destroyed my Wildcats. And I was happy to see it because, honestly, I've loved Texas Tech defense all year. David Bailey, Romello Height, Jacob Rodriguez, Lee Hunter in the middle. It's a phenomenal defense to watch. And the conundrum that the Bucs might be in, Josh, when it comes to edge rushers, is the Buccaneers have that 2nd round pick. It's 46th overall. I have a feeling, and again, this is early. This is January. Haven't even been to the Senior Bowl yet, but I have a feeling that you're going to see after the first wave of edge rushers, and let's say Bain, Bailey, Cassius Howe, that next group of edge rushers, which would be Akeem Mesidor, who I love out of Miami, right? He plays opposite Bain. You've got Oklahoma's R. Mason Thomas. You've got Illinois' Gabe Akis. You've got Clemson's T.J. Parker. Those players are either going to be late 1st or early 2nd round picks. And all those players might be gone by the time Tampa Bay is on the clock at 46. Maybe Jason Light makes some move trades down. Maybe he makes some move trades up into the 2nd round. But we're operating under the premise, Rolling Stones song, can't always get what you want. All of those edge rushers are off the board now. It doesn't mean everyone's gone, because we're going to get to one of those in the 3rd round. But Lee Hunter, again, you have to look at this. Defensive tackle position, Vita Vea will be 31 next year. His statistics came down a little bit from the last 2 years, probably due to not having Kalijah Kancey for all but 3 games last year. Kalijah Kancey's played in 28 games. He's missed 22 now. As good as Elijah Roberts was, he was a guy that was drafted to really replace Logan Hall, and he was a rookie. So you've got defensive tackle, which is a prime position of need. Look at the 4 teams that are in the Final Four here in the NFL. Look at their defensive tackles. That tells you something a little bit. But with Kancey having all these injuries, with Vita Vea entering a contract year next year at 31, you better start finding some stars, not just starters, at defensive tackle too. It's a premium position, especially in this Todd Bowles defense.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why we went with Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. And the other part of that is I think there are a few things with this pick that could help. The Bucs, there were times this past year where if Vita Vea wasn't on the field, their run defense was light in terms of physical size and then in terms of impact.
Yeah.
Like teams were at times able to run on the Bucs. The other thing, and I mentioned it for a couple years now, the Bucs have not restructured Vita Vea's contract in 2 to 3 years now.
Yep.
And that is usually a sign that the team is not confident that past the current contract that player is going to continue to be on their team.
Yeah.
And, Vita Vea is going to be 31 this year.
Yep.
And it's important that you have a post-Vita plan, in case there is a fall off.
That's right.
And so Hunter provides that. And I think I saw a comment in there that said, oh, yay, a backup defensive tackle. But you got to remember, defensive lines are rotated quite a bit. And I'll point people in the direction of the Rams, right?
Yeah.
One of their most impactful players this year has been Poona Ford.
Yes.
Poona Ford is their third defensive tackle behind Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner.
Yeah.
And so, but he's been so crucial to being able to consistently keep a pass rush up past your starting four, right? So that the offense can't take a few snaps off and say, oh, the starters are off the field. Let's go ahead and let's throw on these backups, right? You've got to still have backups who can play. Hunter is one of those defensive tackles. He can stay on the field all 4 downs.
That's right.
He is a big nose tackle. I want to say 6'4", 6'5", 330 pounds, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So big, massive guy. And he can play the nose as a shade. Or I'm sorry, he can play the nose and as a shade. But some of his best reps are as a 3 technique. And what would be really interesting is getting him and Vita kind of on the field together and seeing how much chaos you can create just condensing the pocket on quarterbacks, not giving them the opportunity to move up in the pocket. So you can see it when he gets those one-on-one opportunities. He walks guys back. But he's got more than just that power. He can cross face. He's got a really good lateral first step.
He is quick, yes.
Where he can cross face, and he pairs that, much like Elijah Roberts, with a really strong club. So he'll displace an offensive lineman and throw him a gap or two over and create his own opportunities in the backfield for tackles for loss and to create some pressure. But I think when it comes to third down, where he becomes really, really helpful is he can stay on the field. He can occupy 2 blockers because you have to give him that double team, which then allows everyone around him to get one-on-ones. Yeah. And he also can stunt well and create looping lanes for guys coming around, whether that be, a linebacker or a nickel coming around or just an edge rusher looping or a tackle stunt. So lots of things to like about his game. I think he needs to improve his ability to ID run blocking schemes against him. There are some times where he doesn't see the double coming and he can lose ground there, but that I think with good coaching can be schemed up.
Yeah, and I think the coaching was better at Texas Tech than it was at UCF. I think you'll agree with me there, Josh, right?
I would say the coaching at your Pop Warner League is better than that.
Spoken like a true USF Bull. So Lee Hunter was a UCF Knight for 3 years and then was part of that, hey, who wants to come play for a bunch of cash deal over at Texas Tech? And Lee Hunter said, yeah, me, I'll do that. But he's been a consistent player. The last 3 years, 69 tackles at UCF. Then his final year at UCF, 45 tackles. Last year, 41 tackles, 11 tackles for loss at UCF. Then the final year at UCF, 9.5 tackles for loss. Then last year, 10.5 tackles for loss. I look for consistency. I want to see who you are as a player, especially if I'm going to use a first, second, or third round player, right? I want to see, I want to know what I'm getting. And I think this is pretty consistent. He had 3 sacks, then 1 sack, then last year 2.5 sacks. He is a quick, penetrating defensive tackle that has massive size, that is a little bit lighter than Vita Vea. I think if you were to take Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea and put him in a blender, you're not getting a guy that's as quick as Kalijah. You're not getting a guy that's as powerful as Vita, but you're kind of getting an in-between. And that's not bad either, because both Vita and Kalijah were first-round picks. So if you're getting the bastard child of these two and he is a second-round pick, like I think that's a really good player for Tampa Bay. And it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off if you're Todd Bowles, just in case Vita's starting to break down, or in case Kalijah just can't get over that injury bug. You hopefully have a tackle that can go in there. And now you have Elijah Roberts in year 2, where he's bulked up a little bit. He's used to playing tackle now rather than edge rusher like he was at SMU. So you've got a couple pieces there. You throw in Elijah Simmons, Jason Jones, see if those young guys can develop. And you might have the nucleus of some guys. I'm just kind of over the Greg Gaines, the CJ Brewer. I'm ready to. What's that?
You got to find upside.
Yeah. I'm ready to find some guys with upside, and I think Lee Hunter is a good pick there.
I love that you quoted like his volume stats, and I'd love to give some context to that. Mm-hmm. So this is just 2025. The rate at which he got a tackle for the number of snaps he played was in the 77th percentile of all defensive tackles. Wow. But going to some of the other ones that you mentioned, his tackle for loss rate was in the 99th percentile. Yeah. His defensive stop rate, which is when you basically stop the offense from having a positive play, was in the 91st percentile. And his pressure rate was in the 81st percentile. And all of that, he did that while playing nose tackle at the 78th percentile. And we know that nose tackles aren't supposed to be the guys who make the plays. They eat up the space for everyone else around them to make plays. So for him
Jacob Rogers.
Exactly.
Jacob Rodriguez. Sorry. Yeah.
Rodriguez. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, and David Bailey around him and Romello Height, giving those guys the opportunity because he's just eating everything else up. Yeah. So for him to be able to make plays like he has while operating as a true nose and shade, taking on those double teams, I think it speaks to his individual talent.
Yeah. And Skylar Gill Howard, who was the defensive tackle next to him, very good player. And he probably would have played a little bit more nose too, because again, I look at Lee Hunter as almost like a 3-tech in a nose body. And Skylar Gill Howard was 6'1", 290. So he didn't have the frame to play nose. No. So in a sense, Lee Hunter was forced to play nose, where I think he ideally would have split reps between nose and 3 technique a little bit more than he did. Okay, you want an edge rusher, you're going to get an edge rusher. But first, we have a message from our presenting sponsor, the exclusive sponsor of our mock draft show, and that is the great folks over at Jorgensen Law.
Welcome to Jorgensen Law P.A., where our family's legacy drives us to fight for your rights. Specializing in personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security, we're committed to winning for you. No fees unless we succeed. Trust in our family to help yours. Let's achieve justice together.
Grady and Spencer Jorgensen are fantastic attorneys. They're huge Tampa Bay fans and big fans of Pewter Report. So please give them your business. If you need legal representation in the areas of Social Security, personal injury, or workers' comp, why not sign up the champions of the injured and disabled? That's right. You're going to get a free case evaluation, no fees until they win. With an office located over in St. Petersburg, give them a call at 727-347-7733 or visit them on the web at jorgensenlawoffice.com. Josh, we have some super chats to get to. Let's get to some of those, and we'll get to that edge rush everybody is dying to see. And we'll start off with Kings Are Awful. What's that?
So that's a good cliffhanger, Scott.
Yeah. Kings Are Awful. The $5 super chat. Tony Dungy, with all due respect, doing just fine is what got your ass fired. Todd Bowles ended the season only winning 2 of the final 9 games. That's deplorable. Listen, Todd Bowles has an ally in Tony Dungy. I think Tony Dungy remembers how he was let go by this organization for underachieving. And I don't think he wants to see the same thing happen to Todd Bowles. So I can't blame Coach Dungy for having that frame of mind, especially when he was in a similar boat back in the 2001 season when he was fired after going 9-7, and the Buccaneers had made the playoffs in 99, 2000, 2001, and it just wasn't good enough. So I think that's where Tony's coming from. I agree with you. Kings are awful. I think the Buccaneers probably have gotten the most out of Todd Bowles that they can. Not sure if he is a guy that's ever going to win 11, 12, or 13 games. I don't know that he is. but we wanted to give you the floor there to make your case. Kings are awful with another $5 super chat. The question to be asked is, do we trust Bowles and this defensive coaching staff, particularly Foote and Edwards, to develop middle linebacker, outside linebacker? I sure don't. Well, thankfully, George Edwards does not coach a position. That's actually Mike Caldwell's job. He is the inside linebackers coach. Larry Foote was the outside linebackers coach. I was underwhelmed by what Larry was able to do or not do last year. At the same time, I've come to the conclusion, and I think the team has as well, that Chris Braswell is a bust. He is not an instinctive football player, okay? In my opinion, I think they need to move on from him this year. I don't care if he's a second-round pick. Try to package him with a pick to move up or down. I think it's time to cut bait on him. The roster spots at this point in time are too valuable. If Chris Braswell sticks on the roster as the outside linebacker number 5, as the special teamer, fine. Because he is a better special teamer than he is as an edge rusher at this point in time. Overdrafted in the second round. Hassan Reddick won't be back. I don't think Chris Braswell should be back. David Walker had a lot of promise. We have zero idea what's going to happen with David Walker. Nelly is who Nelly is. Hassan Reddick was just a bust. He was the player that he was with the Jets, not the player they were hoping he would be, which was the guy at the Eagles. So maybe it's a situation with Larry Foote where you can't make chicken salad out of chicken spit, as the legendary Steve Dumig used to say. Maybe Yaya Diaby was really the only edge rusher he had to work with, and he got him to 7 sacks and a bunch of pressures again. We'll see. We'll see if Larry has better players, if that all of a sudden makes Larry a better coach. He certainly was a good edge rusher coach when he had Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, but he was also, I believe, the same guy who said when JPP was playing at 40% capacity and wouldn't put JTS over him, who was playing better than JPP at the time. I'm not saying JTS is the better player, but just at that time, given where JPP was physically from injuries, he's just like, well, that's the guy we paid, so he's going to get the start. So
yeah.
I worry there. I worry. I will say Mike Caldwell, if I remember correctly, got the most out of Devin White.
Yeah.
Some of Levante David's best seasons were under
Agreed.
Caldwell. So I think some of it is, like you said, you can only get so much out of so much talent. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with different players this year. So
yeah. You can't make orange juice when you're squeezing a lemon. It just doesn't work that way, So,
that's a really good one. I'm going to use that in the future.
I just made that up. It just came to me. And I don't know if I stole it from somebody subconsciously or if it just popped in my brain, but I just said it. It sounded good. Bucs fan since Leroy, $5 super chat. Thank you. Deal down into the early second round for extra picks. Messidor, Akis, Rodriguez, Motton, Murdoch, grab a pair of guards later. I'm all for that. If Jason Light wants to say, let's trade down and grab some extra picks this year, I'm in favor of that. He's done that before. Traded down to get not Devin White, Vita Vea at number 12 back in 2018, accumulated some extra second-round picks. They had 3 second-round picks that year. Really only one of them hit. You had MJ Stewart, who was actually drafted ahead of Carlton Davis. Boy, it's a good thing that Jason had that extra second-round pick to get Carlton Davis, who was better. But they also drafted Ronald Jones, who for a season showed some promise, helped him win a Super Bowl, but was never really the guy that was expected to be that home run hitter at running back in the second round. But that was a draft, Josh, where you look back at it and say, you got Vita Vea, you got Carlton Davis out of that draft in 2018. Those were 2 guys that helped you win a Super Bowl on defense. And from a value standpoint, the trade down, still get the guy you wanted at 12 in Vita, and then accumulate a couple more second-round picks. They could use a similar scenario this year with all of the talent they need to acquire on the defensive side.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Like, what is a good draft? A good draft is where you get, 2 good starters. It by definition, really, when you look at the balance of drafts across the entire NFL. So I would love to see a trade down scenario if, say, a Sonny Styles or an Arvell Reese wasn't there. It takes 2 to tango. And from what I've been hearing about this draft, it lacks those high impact, really top end.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think and it doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks. Right. And those are usually the things that drive those teams wanting to trade up into the top 15. Right. So takes two to tango. It'll be interesting to see if
Yeah.
anybody even really wants to move up. You can lambast a decision maker group for not doing something. You got to remember, most of those things you have to do requires a second party that has to be willing to do it as well.
Yep. Just a reminder, today is Sunday. We're driving to Mobile tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern. We're going to have our Senior Bowl preview. There's Jacob Rodriguez right there, the Texas Tech Red Raider linebacker. He will be on hand, as well as Lee Hunter, and also the guy that we're going to be talking about next, which is Denai Dennis Sutton. It looks like Danny, D-A-N-I, but it's not. It's Denai. And he denies quarterbacks the opportunity to throw the ball sometimes by sacking them, as he did here with Cade Klubnik from Clemson. Got 2 sacks in his final college game for the Nittany Lions in that bowl win, the Pinstripe Bowl. And what I like about Denai Dennis Sutton is, again, some consistency there. Remember, this was an edge rusher playing at Penn State that really had to bide his time. He had to play behind Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac, Abdul Carter, right? There were a lot of players ahead of him. But really, when he got to get on the field, he put up back-to-back years with 8.5 sacks in each of the 2024 and 2025 seasons. Again, I look for consistency. I want to know, what type of player am I getting? Well, in 2024, when he really was a full-time starter, 42 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups. And then what did he have last year? 42 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups. He also had 3 forced fumbles, and he's been a player that can knock the ball loose. He's a player that will pick off some passes too. He has a couple of interceptions in his career. Is he a starting caliber edge rusher in the league? I think so. He might be more akin to Yaya Diaby rather than an alpha, but again, you can't always get what you want. And so in this scenario, keep in mind there's 4 other mock drafts coming. If you don't like this edge rusher, we get it. But there's also free agency too that we're not counting in here as well. But he's a player, Josh, that I think if you put a Yaya Diaby player opposite Yaya Diaby, I'd love to see what happens in this Bucs defense, because I think Yaya Diaby is good. If you have 2 good edge rushers rather than one edge rusher who's good and one that's not good, and that's been the case the last couple of years, it's a different story.
Yeah, and he definitely has that body type. So I've seen him listed at 6'5", 265. I've seen him listed at 6'5", 272. So, but it's that bigger, longer body type. But then the arms aren't the longest, right? I think based on his spring measurements at Penn State, he was around the 33 and an eighth inches, which would be below the 50th percentile for edge rushers. But the things that I like about him, he has an explosive lower half and strong hands to swap punches and keep offensive linemen off his frame. He's got that explosive lower half helps him launch off the line of scrimmage. And I think that's where we'll go back to the superpower, right? Is his ability to just explode off the line of scrimmage and just really put tackles in a panic because they've got to cover the outside corner, and he's trying to win the corner. As he gets up the corner, I think the acceleration slows a little bit, and I don't see a ton of bend in him, and that's why we have him as a 3rd round pick and not a 1st round pick, right? He really more flips his hips rather than gets parallel to the ground and wins around the arc on a more natural path. So he utilizes an inside spin move when he sees that there's a path to win as a counter. So there's a little bit of a pass rush plan from him where he's like, I'm going to continue to threaten the outside and really force tackles to try and defend their outside shoulder. And then as soon as I see some oversets, that's when I'm coming back inside with that spin. It's not the tightest. It's not a David Bailey tight inside spin move, but it's effective. So, and then he will dip his shoulder, but again, without much bend, how effective is that? I will say he's got a strong rip move to try and keep, to break the connection with offensive tackles when he's getting around the corner. So I think those are the things that really I hope I've given a decent amount of like, this is what he does really well, but there are some limitations. And he's one of those guys where it's like, can 1 to 2 really high-end traits translate at the next level? That's the ultimate question with him.
Yeah. And I think at this point in time, you'd love to have that 10 or 12 sack guy opposite Yaya, right? The only problem is there's 32 teams. There is not 32 edge rushers that have double-digit sacks.
Yep.
What's that number, Josh? Probably like 10, 12, maybe, right? I mean, that's just
right around, I would say like 15 to 20. I can look it up, but it's less than people think. I always tell people the number of guys who get 10 sacks a year is a lot less than you think. And the number of guys who get 3 or more interceptions is a lot less than you think. And they don't always translate year over year. It's a uncommon feat, which is why guys get paid $40 million a year when they can do it year over year. And guys who can get to 7 to 10 consistently will get paid $20 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. And what I like about this kid too, just from like a little bit of an intangible standpoint, is he's an high energy guy. He's got a good motor. He's good in pursuit. He's relentless. He's a little psycho. Like if you watch some of his animations after sacks and stuff, it's one thing to yell and all that stuff, but I mean, he's a little screw loose, and I like that in edge rushers. I think Jared Allen. You think, I don't want to say Charles Haley, but Charles Haley had a lot of screws loose, but just a little crazy, and I like the energy from edge rushers. And I think Yaya has a different kind of energy. He is energetic, but I would be interested to see, putting this guy in the mix with David Walker, what could transpire opposite Yaya Diaby. Because if Yaya can get you 7, this guy gets you 7, that's a hell of a lot better than they've done in recent years with a pair of edge rushers. So we'll see. We put a pause on the defense to give Jason Light an offensive lineman, because Lord knows the guy loves to draft offensive linemen, and he does a pretty good job of it. And so for the 4th round pick, the player we have selected for the Buccaneers is kind of like one of those best available players. He's an offensive tackle, played left tackle. We know how Jason likes to take left tackles and move them inside. And we think that he is a guard, but he could probably also play right tackle in a pinch too. Now you have Ben Chikwuma, who is that swing tackle. He can play left tackle. He can play right tackle. He's already kind of shown that at this level. But you want to replace Charlie Heck. And this is another guy that has some versatility to play inside. He's a bigger body, 6'5", 335 pounds. He's not the mover that, say, like Cody Mauch is, right? When he moved from left tackle at North Dakota State to right guard inside. But this is a physical, big dude, more like Ben Bredesen, where he's more of a brawler than a guy that's going to be 20 yards down the field on screen passes, right? So he's more like Ben Bredesen than he is Cody Mauch. But what I love about this guy is the grip strength is real. Once he gets his mitts on you, it's over. Like he will control you. He is the puppet master. And look at that friggin' face mask. Sign me up for that. Okay? That is like some Bane shit from Batman right there. I love it. So, aesthetics matter, as Trevor Sickerman will tell you. So, I like this kid. He's a little bit of a different guy than the typical left tackle, move him inside. He's not going to be as athletic as Graham Barton. He's not going to be maybe the lengthy guy that Alex Capel was, or the athletic guy that Cody Mauch was. But I think he's more of the mold of like Luke Gedeke, where he can play right tackle for you, right? And if you need somebody, like if Tristan and Luke go down at the same time, you could have, in theory, Ben Chikwuma at left tackle, this guy at right tackle, and then he can also factor in as a guard and give you some depth there, because Lord knows they needed it last year, Josh. So I think if we can hit the pause button on defense and give Jason Light and Kevin Carberry and Zach Robinson another interior guy, then maybe it prevents a Dan Feeney, Michael Jordan situation that we saw last year way too often.
Yeah, and shout out to Kevin Carberry and Brian Picucci for getting as much as they did out of Dan Feeney and Mike Jordan, because those guys had a couple of okay games, and for the talent level, I think that's a yeoman's work by the coaching staff.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think for JC Davis, the move needs to be inside.
Yes.
Athletically, he's got the body for it at 6'5", 320. He's I know you said he's not the mover. He's a people mover.
He's a people mover. Yes.
Like you said, when he gets that grip on, and especially when he's trying to down block or just get guys to move to a different gap, he will show that leg drive and really drive guys laterally. But the movement skills, like you said, just more average and definitely profile better on the inside. As a pass blocker, he can get out over his skis a little bit. He likes to reach. He wants to get that grip on guys. That's where he feels comfortable. So he can get manipulated by defenders to just get him to reach out. And then that's where you see he's a little top heavy. The balance isn't as great, and he can kind of fall forward. He's got great eye discipline to look for loopers, which I think is important, because that was one of the biggest issues with the Bucs blocking this past season. When you got to the depth guys, is they didn't do a great job of passing off and looking for stunts in games. So I think that was really a plus for him, but he can give up his chest to long arm defenders. And his foot speed is more functional, but not a plus. But I would say the technique is good. You don't really see him crossing his feet over or getting tripped up. It's just they're a little bit slower than you would like, again, profiling more inside than on the edge.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me with that grip strength of a bigger yet slightly less athletic version of Davin Joseph, where he had big, strong hands. He was a hell of a guard for the Buccaneers. And, it was the only Pro Bowler that John Gruden and Bruce Allen drafted in their 7 years. Only Pro Bowler. He was the first round pick in, was it 2006? Yeah, 2006. And it was a hell of a good player. He just reminds me of a bigger, less athletic version of Davin Joseph. And if you get that guy, I think that's somebody that you can win with. Okay. If you were underwhelmed by the fact that we drafted an edge rusher in the 3rd round, well, we're going to cover our bases, folks, because we have another edge rusher on tap for the Buccaneers on day 3. This is the 5th round pick for Tampa Bay. Remember, Tampa Bay has their own pick in every single round this year. So they have 7 picks as of right now. We'll see what happens with any compensatory picks. But right now, if the Buccaneers were going to make that selection in the 5th round, we've kind of uncovered a little bit of a gem here. And his name is Nadam Tucker. And Tucker is an interesting player out of Western Michigan. More of that classic outside linebacker build at 6'3", 250. He's not a Yaya Diaby or a Denai Dennis Sutton type where he's 265. 6'3", 250. He played at Houston for 3 years. Didn't see the field much. So he went ahead and transferred out of Houston, where he literally had a handful of tackles. There he is, number 45. And he went to Western Michigan so he could get on the field. And boy, did he get on the field. He made quite an impression. Bit of a one-year wonder, but the kind of guy, Josh, that you take a chance on day 3 when it comes to traits and or limited production. And this guy, I think, has some pass rushing traits. He brings the juice and quickness off the edge, smaller than Denai Dennis Sutton, but has a little bit more quickness and initial burst off the edge. But a one-year wonder, but it was a wonderful year. 55 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 14 and a half sacks for Western Michigan, a pass breakup, and 4 forced fumbles.
Yep.
So is this a guy that was truly a one-hit wonder at Western Michigan, or is he a player that it was a late bloomer, and once he got the opportunity to show what he could do, made the most of it?
Yeah, I think late bloomer is a really good verse to use for him, because he was a man among boys. I want to say he's 25 years old. He is definitely taking advantage of kind of the COVID deferrals and being able to stay in college long past what we have normally seen prior to the COVID seasons. Yeah. And but what's undeniable, I mean, he's a dip and rip guy, right? Yeah. Which I think is really interesting. If you want to find something to really complement Yaya, Yaya can crash through guys' faces and he condenses the pocket kind of on a shorter arc.
Right.
If you really want to create chaos for the quarterback, then find somebody who can win outside the arc and up the path and dip and rip around. And I think that that's what Nadam brings, right? And so he's explosive off the line. And what's really interesting with him, and this is not just when he's rushing the passer, but also as a run defender, he has this way to ground himself into the field.
Yeah.
And almost use the power and the mass of the ground beneath him to explode into offensive linemen. For as small as he is, the way he's able to set the edge in the run game is extremely impressive. And he loves creating car crashes that way.
Yeah.
But he can do that and then also win around the arc. And I think that that gives you that really unique kind of, again, you're in day 3, find traits. And I think this guy has those traits to really be an interesting find. And if it translates, then you're talking about somebody, you know, I'm not going to say as good as Nick Benito, but wins in that similar way, where it's just pure speed and chaos. And he's just creating all sorts of damage to the pocket.
Yep. So here's the thing. He is 25. He'll be 26 in June. I'm at the point where, especially for this team right here, right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles in a hot seat, right? Entering 2026. Jason Light has been the general manager of this team since 2014. Todd Bowles has got to win this year. I don't think he cares that in 4 years, at the end of his first contract, that someone like Nadam Tucker is going to be going on 30 years of age. I don't think that Todd Bowles in 2026 is giving a crap about that right now. There is a school of thought that a guy who's older, Akeem Mesidor, 25 years old as well, or will be 25 in April. Guys like Mesidor, guys like Tucker, these late guys that stayed in school 5-6 years, I think they're more mature coming in. They could be more ready to help you right away than, say, a 21-year-old TJ Parker at Clemson, right? Grown man strength is real. And that comes a little bit later in life. And so you're getting closer to that at age 25 than you are at 21. At the same time, Jason Light, I think he wants one more shot at a Super Bowl, and then he might just decide to retire and turn this thing over to Mike Greenberg or the next general manager or whatever. So I think if Todd and Jason were younger and they were starting off together, they want a younger player that will grow within this franchise. But right now, for this team, this time, I don't know that they're really caring about 4 to 5 years down the road. I think they're looking at, let's win now. Let's get this team back in the playoffs, because Baker Mayfield will be 31 this offseason. You and I both believe he's going to get another contract. But do you like your chances of winning a Super Bowl with 31 or 32-year-old Baker Mayfield or 35-year-old Baker Mayfield, right? Mike might come back for a year or two. 4 or 5 years from now, Mike's not going to be on this roster. He's going to be retired. So there is a window that is shrinking for this team. And if someone like Tucker, who's more mature, comes in at 25, 26, can help you, I'm all for it. We're entering a different phase with NIL. We're gonna be seeing guys stay in college longer because of the NIL money they're getting. They're going to be 5th-year seniors coming out seniors rather than juniors or redshirt sophomore. And I just think that's kind of what's here to stay. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah. And I think for a day 3 pick, you're not thinking second contract to the point you made earlier. The other thing that I look at with an older player is I worry if you have an older player and you're talking about, well, they need to develop, right? Yeah. And specifically physically, they need to develop. This is who he is going to be physically, right? Yeah. I don't see Nadam Tucker changing who he is physically, but I don't think he needs to. I don't think he needs to fill out. He doesn't need to gain weight. Like he's an athletic dude with a lot of burst. And so from that perspective, it's, can this version of him be successful at the NFL level as a depth edge rusher who brings some juice? And I think that this version can. So, and then if you get 2 to 3 years out of a 5th round draft pick, I mean, that is a wildly successful draft pick.
Yeah. And if you're going to take a chance on an older prospect, I'd rather have it be a day 3 guy than an early round guy, just for that reason. So for the positional value. Well, the type of value that you're going to get if you decide to use Jorgensen Law Office and Jorgensen Law P.A. for your legal representation is going to be plentiful, because you're going to get a free case consultation when you sign up with Jorgensen Law.
Welcome to Jorgensen Law P.A., where our family's legacy drives us to fight for your rights. Specializing in personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security, we're committed to winning for you. No fees unless we succeed. Trust in our family to help yours. Let's achieve justice together.
No fees unless they succeed. Boy, you have to love the mentality, the winner mentality that they have over there at Jorgensen Law P.A. And I highly recommend you check them out on their website, jorgensenlawoffice.com, or give them a call, 727-347-7733. They are the champions of the injured and disabled, the exclusive presenting sponsor of our Pewter Report mock drafts. Again, our new mock draft is out on PewterReport.com. You can check that out. And we're heading to Mobile, Alabama tomorrow. We're going to have a fantastic week of news there. We're going to have our Senior Bowl preview. We're probably going to do 2 podcasts on Tuesday, one during the day where we'll have immediate reaction to the Zach Robinson press conference. We're going to be watching it from Mobile. And then we will have our Senior Bowl day 1 recap podcast later that evening. So a lot of great stuff happening on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Make sure that you're hitting the like button on this video, as well as leaving a comment, because doing those 2 things helps us with that YouTube algorithm. And make sure you hit the subscribe button too. We're over 22,500 now, on the way to 23,000. Thanks to you. Greatly appreciate it. We have a couple more picks to make, Josh. Let's get to those quickly. Southern Miss cornerback Josh Motton is a very interesting prospect. Started off at Texas A&M, transferred to Marshall for 2 years, where he played with Buccaneer safety and nickelback J.J. Roberts, and then transferred for a final season to Southern Miss. Put up really good numbers. If Todd Bowles continues with that, I want some ball hawks mantra, well, this is kind of the guy to do it. He had a pick 6 in his first year at Marshall, including 6 pass breakups in 2023. Last year, or I should say his final year at Marshall, 5 pass breakups, 5 interceptions, then goes to Southern Miss and gets 5 more interceptions. So that's a total of 11. I'm actually good at, in not math, Josh, but arithmetic, I can add. So he's got 11 interceptions in his career. He had 11 pass breakups last year as well. Pretty good against the run and the pass. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds. They're going to need another cornerback. And he started his career at Marshall as a slot corner. Then he moved to the outside the past 2 years. So he's got some position versatility to him. If you're looking for a day 3 corner, and we'll see where his ultimate grade shakes out, maybe he climbs up into the 4th round, or maybe even higher if he tests well. I don't know. But I think right now, if he's there in the 6th round, Josh Motton is a player that has experience, that is a proven ball hawk, that can come in and replace that body on the roster that you're going to lose when Jamel Dean leaves, and probably Kendall Vildor too. They're going to need to probably get another free agent corner and then draft another corner. Right now you have Jacob Parrish, you've got Benjamin Morrison, last year's rookies. You're going to have Zion McCollum back. There's 3, but as we know, especially in Tampa Bay, you need more than 1 or 2 corners because of the injuries at that position.
Yeah, he's a really interesting prospect. I think I've seen him listed at 6 foot, 185 at on PFF. I've also seen him listed at 6'1", like 164, like very, very thin, very wiry frame, but yeah. It's boom or bust with him, right? Like he has these incredible interceptions, and he's been able to do it season over season, which is you talk about consistency, right? Yeah. Especially when it comes to interceptions. But then he will allow some big plays. Yep. Which, if I've ever heard of a Todd Bowles defender, it's a guy who either makes a big play or allows a big play. There's no in between. So he's perfect for the Bucs defense from that perspective. But he will allow some big receptions. I think his yards per reception allowed is pretty high. But I like that he's not afraid to attack the ball. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that the Bucs defense struggled with last year. Yeah. And I would like to see somebody who brings that mentality of, I'm going to make a play. or I'm going to try and make a play no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that mentality on the Bucs defense can be really, really important.
I agree. We're going to go back to the offense to finish up this draft. And if you like Kenyon Sadiq, if you're one of those guys that really likes the Oregon tight end, and you know what, Josh, if they don't re-sign Cade Otton, we might put Kenyon Sadiq in there in one of these mock drafts coming up because he's a first-round talent at tight end. Big-time receiving threat. Well, this guy is kind of like Kenyon Sadiq light. And the player we're talking about is Rohan Jones out of Arkansas. Similarly built, and I say built because this guy's jacked, very much like Kenyon Sadiq. He's 6'3", 242 pounds, so he's kind of undersized. Think of Devin Culp body, but like with bigger muscles. And he's built more like an H-back or a fullback than he is a tight end. But the thing I like about Rohan Jones is, and he's bounced around a little bit. He started off at Maine, then he had his lone season at Montana State, catching 30 passes for 469 yards, and then went to Arkansas last year as an NIL acquisition. Only caught 20 passes, but have 519 yards. He averaged 27.3 yards per catch, and he had 4 touchdowns. He is a touchdown producer. In the 2 years at Maine, he had 2 touchdowns and then 5. Then the lone season at Montana State, he had 9, where he averaged 15.7 yards per catch. Then again, last year, Arkansas averaged a gaudy 27.3 yards per catch with 4 more touchdowns. The thing with Jones that I find so intriguing is he is a player that will make some contested catches, but he has speed and athleticism to get open. And when you're watching this guy on film, it's not like he is creating separation, Josh. It's sometimes there's not even the defender in the screen. Okay.
Yep.
He gets wide ass open, as Bruce Arians would say.
Yeah, he can attack zone defenses. And what's really interesting with him, you had mentioned, like, his yards per catch is incredibly high, but this isn't a guy who's catching a short pass and then making dudes miss and getting downfield. His average depth of target last year was 14, and 64% of his targets came at 10 air yards or more, 32% beyond 20 yards. They used him as a vertical field stretcher as a tight end. So you would say, okay, he's a little undersized. He's a vertical field stretcher. He's more of like that F tight end, you put in the slot. No, 70% of his snaps came in line. Yeah. They were just releasing him from the line of scrimmage and just having him attack the seam, and he was able to do it. Now, with what you hear about this and you say, okay, a guy like that, would the Bucs be able to get him in the 7th round? He wasn't a starter. He started only like 3 games for them last year. He struggled to get on the field and stay on the field. So it's definitely an upside play. Right. But I mean, it's just incredible how Arkansas was using him. They were releasing him from the backfield. Yeah. Like I saw earlier today. Yeah, it was a what was it, like a 62-yard touchdown catch that he had, where he released from the backfield through the B gap and just attacked down they bombed it out to him. Yeah. So he is the antithesis of how Cade Otton wins, right? Because Cade Otton is that short guy, short field. So he would definitely bring a vertical presence to that tight end room that they haven't had. Maybe Devin Culp can be that guy. The Bucs haven't thought it. They haven't used him that way. Right. This guy definitely would bring that element because that's what he's been at Arkansas. Yeah.
And so for some of you out there who are saying, well, we already have Devin Culp. Why would we want a guy like this? Well, Devin Culp is a 7th round pick who hasn't done much yet. Right. And so the object of drafting players is to create competition and force people off your roster or down the depth chart. Right. And let's say Cade Otton doesn't come back. Right. Let's say maybe they get a free.
Don't hurt me this way.
Come on now. I'm going to say it. But let's say that they possibly sign a free agent or not. Maybe they say, we're going to give Payne Durham a look, right, as our blocker. We're just going to attack this positionally. And, the tells be damned. We're going to put Payne Durham in as the starter, and we'll give Devin Culp the opportunity to be tight end number 2. But, bring in another tight end and challenge Devin Culp, challenge Payne Durham. think the biggest question is from JBEZ, can he block though? He's not the best blocker, but neither is Devin Culp. And maybe you can coach that into him. He certainly has enough size and physical mass to do it. I think it's a technique thing more than a want-to thing with him. A lot of times he wasn't asked to block at some of the stops he's been. He's been more of that receiving weapon. And we'll see. Devin Culp wasn't a starter at Washington. That's a reason why he fell late in the draft, and it's the same thing here. He was a starter at Montana State, but then went to Arkansas, and maybe it was just the jump in competition going from Maine to Montana State to Arkansas. But he was certainly an effective weapon. But how is he as an overall tight end? I think there is definitely some development there.
Yeah, and again, day 3, I mean, we have him as the final pick in our mock draft, 7th rounder. So when you get to day 3, you're looking for either core special teamers, guys with extremely high IQs or athletic limitations, where you say, can they just cerebrally, like perfect example is like you're looking for that cerebral linebacker that San Francisco's on linebacker 6 in the playoffs, and can he just know his assignment? Or you're looking for traitsy guys who can do one thing well, and you say, can we get more out of that with development? You're not going to get complete players, right? So with Rohan, you've got a guy where you can say he has been a weapon downfield, vertically, downfield winner, good hands. Can we develop the blocking part out of him and make him a full-time starting tight end? And if not, can we just weaponize that one skill 15 plays a year, and it can make the difference in a scoring drive?
For sure. Folks, that is going to wrap up the show for today. We do have one more comment here since we mentioned K-Dot. I want to get to this one. This is a good question, and I'm glad Josh Queipo is on the podcast today rather than Matt Matera or Adam Slavon, because I think you're the guy to answer this question, Josh, more so than any of us. And this is from Low Country Pirate. Random thought. Could you franchise tag Otten to fill that in 1 year? Not sure if it was asked. So what are your thoughts on possibly using the franchise tag on K-Dot? And what would that number be? And is that the right move as opposed to letting him go to free agency and seeing what his value is? Maybe it's lower than maybe some people might think, because Jamel Dean kind of came in lower than what Tampa Bay was bracing for. Maybe he gets market value or whatever. But what about the franchise tag with K-Dot? And is that something that could be used, or is that smart to use, or what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's smart to use, and that's coming from one of K-Dot's biggest defenders. The franchise tag, the number that's placed on that is the average of the top 5 players at the position in terms of their salary. So the projection right now for the franchise tag for the tight end this year is $15.9 million. And as one of his biggest proponents, K-Dot is not worth $15.9 million a year. So his value is closer to 10 to 12 million a year. And so you could easily work out a deal for him, a long-term deal that would cost less than what the franchise tag would cost. The other thing with the franchise tag is if you apply it, then that's the cap number. Not just the cash that the player receives. And that's a big cap number for a tight end. So whereas, again, a long-term deal for Otten, $10 to $12 million a year, that cap hit in year 1 is probably somewhere between $5 and $7 million. So just not a great allocation of resources. There's no player that the Bucs stand to lose that I would think that they're going to apply a franchise tag on this year.
Well, just to recap the show and our mock draft, our initial one, we're going to have one after the Senior Bowl coming up in February, and then we'll have another one in March after the Combine, and then we'll have 2 in April, one early part of April, and then we'll have the final mock draft the week of the draft, which is April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. 23rd is my birthday, so I got to work on my birthday again. Yay, happy birthday to me. Thank you, NFL. Let's take a look at the draft as we have it here. The Buccaneers pick Sonny Styles in the first round at number 15. That shores up an inside linebacker position. But a final question on this. Do you think Sonny Styles is better off as a Mo linebacker, the money backer, where he's an off-ball Levante David, kind of coverage, chase and pursue type of linebacker, or would he be better suited as the Mike linebacker replacing Servasi Dennis? How would you see Sonny Styles' role in this defense?
Yeah, it's a great question, Scott. I think he can play both, but I think
so
he's
too.
best suited as a Mike. I think the communication skills that he exhibits are really great, and I would like to see him in a position where it's read it out and just attack downhill, and I think that's better utilized by the Mike backer.
I'm with you on that. So you've got an inside linebacker in the first round, a second-round pick, Texas Tech defensive tackle Lee Hunter, right behind Sonny Styles. So you're shoring up the inside, the interior of that Bucs defense with another defensive tackle. Then we're going to address edge rusher and create kind of a three-way competition outside of Yaya Diaby on the opposite side. Penn State outside linebacker Denai Dennis Sutton in the third round. Fourth round pick was Illinois offensive lineman J.C. Davis. Their left tackle would move inside to help with depth at guard, as well as probably be able to play right tackle in a backup capacity as well, given his size. And then going back to the defensive side and getting that other edge rusher, Western Michigan outside linebacker Nadam Tucker. So you have David Walker, Denai Dennis Sutton, and Nadam Tucker, three guys, and we'll see what they do in free agency. But those three guys could compete and vie for that starting job opposite of Yaya Diaby. And then adding cornerback depth in round 6 with Southern Miss cornerback Josh Motton, and then adding some tight end depth with Rohan Jones, the tight end from Arkansas. So hope you all have enjoyed our first mock draft. If you didn't like it, well, guess what? We have 4 more. Maybe we can make you happy then. But we're looking forward to going down to Mobile, Alabama. Actually, you're going down. We're going up to Mobile tomorrow, and so we're looking forward to our coverage there. Greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in for the show. Make sure you check out the mock draft on Pewter Report and send that link to your friends and family who are Buccaneer fans. We'd love to have as many eyeballs on the mock draft as possible. We're super excited that we were able to do the show on a Sunday. Josh, you are going to continue your practice of doing some Sunday podcasts for us with some live mock drafts this year.
Yes. I think Adam Slavan is going to join me for a good number of those. We'll work on getting some guests as well. We had Trevor Sikkema last year. We had JP Acosta of CBS Sports. So we had some really great guests. We're hoping to recreate that this year. Time for the first one, or day for the first one, still up in the air, but it should be within the next 2 to 3 weeks. But we're really excited to re-kick off that particular series. What was really fun with it is we would do a lot of themes. So we did a only Senior Bowl one.
Yeah.
We did one where we create free agency scenarios to say, okay, we've filled these holes, similar to, if anybody's a fan of the PFF NFL Stock Exchange, fix your franchise that you do, where we kind of lay out some of the precursors to the draft before going through it. So really excited to get that going again.
Buccaneers have found some edge rushers in Mobile. We know what Yaya Diaby can do. He was a Senior Bowl alum. And then last year, David Walker got a sack in the Senior Bowl and showed up as someone who showed out that he could play, even though he was from Central Arkansas. So we'll see if Jason Light can do it again with another edge rusher from Mobile. We'll be there all the way through Thursday, those practices, to bring you the latest scouting reports on the players who might become the next Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For Josh Queipo, I'm Scott Reynolds. We'll be back in February with another Pewter Report mock draft show. Out.